Something that we all tend to learn when we're young is the saying, never give up. This is something we all tend to know and say throughout our lives, but there are definitely times when we stray away from this saying a bit and give up something we were doing. But there can also unfortunately be times when people are confronted with struggle too often and give up completely. Take abusive relationships as an example of this. It's common knowledge these days to know that when someone is in an abusive relationship, they often will stay in that relationship and give up on fighting for how they should be treated, then become depressed. With that being said, in the 1960s, a well-known and influential psychologist named Martin Seligman decided to wonder why exactly people will give up to a point where they become depressed. He theorized that our perceptions of power and control are learned from experience. In other words, he believed that when a person's efforts at controlling something fail repeatedly, the person may stop trying to be in control altogether and therefore lack control in all situations from then on, therefore becoming depressed. From an earlier experiment that Seligman had done, he saw that when dogs were shocked by electrical shocks that they couldn't control or escape from, they gave up trying to have control or escape from the shocks, even when in a situation where the shocks were very easy to escape from. They then were placed into a large shuttle box where an electric shock would shock the side the dog was on. Normally, a dog's instinct would be to get away from the shock so that they would jump to the other side. But the dogs Seligman was using for his experiment stayed on the side that shocked them. Seligman theorized that the dogs stayed because they had already been through a situation where they couldn't control or escape from the shocks no matter what they did, so they thought that they shouldn't even try to escape these shocks. To test his theory, Seligman and Mayer decided to study the effect of controllable versus uncontrollable shock on later ability to learn to avoid shock. For the experiment, the dogs were placed into 3 groups. One was the escape group, the second was the non-escape group, and the third was the no-harness control group. The dogs in the escape and the no-escape groups were put into harnesses, and on one side of their heads was a panel to keep their heads facing forward. When an electrical shock was sent to the dogs in the escape group, they would be able to press the panel with their heads to turn off the shock, but the dogs in the no-escape group would not be able to turn off the shock by doing this. No matter what they did, it was impossible for them to turn off the shock unless the dog in the escape group turned it off. On the other hand, the dogs in the no-harness control group were not receiving any shocks yet. During the experiment, the escape group dogs quickly learned that they could turn off the shocks for both groups by pressing the panel with their heads. After this, they moved on to the next test in the experiment. This time, all the dogs were each tested in a shuttle box similar to the one from before. This time, when the lights on one side turned off, an electric shock went through that side after 10 seconds. If the dog learned this and jumped over to the other side before the 10 seconds was up, they would not get shocked. Each dog was given 10 trials in the box. Now on to the results. For the first test in the experiment, the escape group dogs were able to learn to press the panel and stop the shocks faster every time it happened, while for the no-escape group, the dogs stopped trying to press the panel after 30 out of 64 trials. In the shuttle box trial, the difference between the no-escape group and the escape group was drastic. The escape group dogs were able to easily figure out that they needed to jump to the other side to prevent being shocked, while 6 out of 8 of the no-escape group dogs failed entirely on either 9 or all of the trials. With further research, Seligman wanted to apply these new findings to humans. With the research he did, he found out that the development of depression in humans is similar to the development of depression in animals. For both, the step before falling down to depression is giving up after feeling as though you no longer have control. From Seligman's findings, he came to the conclusion that the beginning of spiraling into depression is starting to lack a sense of control, and it's important to not only therapists, counselors, and other mental health specialists, but to everyone to remember this if they ever feel as though they may be on the road to becoming depressed, because depression is a very serious issue.